HAKIM. So I thought it'd be dumb. That's what I thought. I thought it'd be dumb. So, okay. I was thinking it'd be a fun idea to talk about some drummers I think never get a lot of recognition within the drumming world, or the music world for that matter. Highly overlooked. Ones that we have all heard dozens of times, but never really paid attention to who it was that was actually playing the drums to that song. There is a lot of music out there, and a lot of fantastic drumming performances. So I'd like to kind of shine a light on some of the ones that I think were overlooked. As a kid playing the drums, my wheelhouse was classic rock, pop, things that you heard on the radio. Whatever's on the radio and whatever I could bug the crap out of my neighbors with. Now we won't need to cover the legendary drummers like the Vinnies, the Steves, the Daves, the Buddies, the Neils, the Bottoms.
Foreshadow.
Most of us drummers already know who they are and have studied them many times. And if you're just discovering the drums, I highly recommend that you check them out. There is a ton of information on these drummers and you won't be disappointed. But in this series, hopefully shine a light on some drummers that don't get the spotlight often. They're not on the cover of the magazines or in the readers' polls, but they should be, at least in my opinion. Hopefully this will bring into focus some drummers that we missed. Ones that inspired me growing up and still do to this day. So to start off this series, I can't think of anyone better. I'm talking about the late great Tony Thompson. And if you've never heard of Tony Thompson, well, you're welcome. Just introduced you to him. Sick! Born Anthony Terrence Thompson, November 15th, 1954 in New York City. Tony was a pioneer in the late 70s as a disco drummer, most notably with the band Chic, which also just happened to feature legendary guitarist Nile Rodgers and bassist Bernard Edwards, both of whom were incredibly successful producers in their own right. With Chic, Tony's drumming can be heard on such disco classics as Le Freak and Good Times. The bass line, performed by Bernard Edwards, was sampled many times in early rap songs, most notably in 1980's Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. Tony also played on disco classics such as We Are Family by Sister Sledge. We are family. He also played on Diana Ross's Diana, which had such hits as Upside Down, Upside Down, and I'm Coming Out, which would later be sampled by Notorious B.I.G. and Sean Puff Diddy Combs in the rap classic Mo Money, Mo Problems. Then in the 80s, Then in the 80s, guitar legend, producer, and Chic bandmate Nile Rodgers started hiring Tony to play on a lot of the albums that Niles was producing. Those albums include Jesus. Such albums include Madonna's uber successful Like a Virgin. Tony played on the title track Like a Virgin, as well as Material Girl. Really? And Love Don't Live Here Anymore. However, I really came to take notice of Tony in 1985. And 1985 turned out to be a hell of a year for Tony Thompson. Starting with the release of this album, The Power Station. Well, The Power Station was the name of the group as well. And it was a super group that comprised of Tony on drums, John and Andy Taylor from Duran Duran, and lead vocalist Robert Palmer. Holy the drum sound on this record. When I first heard it, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. It slapped me so hard it knocked the taste out of my mouth. The first time I heard Power Station was on MTV, back when MTV actually played music videos. They had They had a smash hit with Bang a Gong, which was actually a remake of a song by the band T-Rex. Now, the drum sounds on this are incredibly huge sounding. They're huge, massive, gargantuan, huge.
Big.
They're huge. The drum sounds, and really the sound of the whole record, has been chased for years since it came out. Now, that has a lot to do with the rule-breaking production by Bernard Edwards, who was the bass player in Chic with Tony, as well as audio engineer Jason Casaro. Now, Tony's playing really made that drum sound as well. He hit so hard, but he never ever lost the groove or the feel or the intent of the song at all. He had finesse in his playing. Now, what really grabbed me the first time I heard Bang a Gong was the drum groove. The opening and closing of the hi-hat of each quarter note was a revelation for me as a young drummer. I hadn't really heard that before, and it just struck me, and it's really stayed with me to this day. Now, top to bottom, this whole album is just fantastic on its own, aside from the drumming. There's not a weak spot on it. That's not really filled with gospel chops and flashy fills and athletic dexterity on the drums. It's not. It is filled with solid grooves and really creative fill placement. It really is a true masterclass in how to power and drive a song with simple and effective beats. When listening to it, you really pick up on Tony's use of syncopated 16th note patterns, specifically between the bass drum and the snare drum, and occasionally throwing the toms in there just for good measure. It's very creative, and it's just done with superb precision. Tony's playing on that first Power Station record was really what got me to notice about how the space between the notes are really what make a groove. You're allowing the beat and the music to breathe in between the notes that you're actually playing. It's in the space between the notes where the groove lies. I don't mean to go all metaphysical and esoteric on you, but that's really where it is. This record to me is a must-have in any drummer's collection. Songs like Communication. Tony shows how the very first pattern we learn in Rock 101 can be so effective when driving a song. Then there's the song Some Like It Hot. I'd never heard a song that featured the drums like that, and the sounds that they were getting with these were just fantastic. Tony's use of the hi-hat adding accents with the horn stabs, as well as some really cool snare accents that he placed in there as well. But Murderous, I dare you, I challenge you to find a deeper groove in recorded music. And the tom sounds, forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. I can't recommend this album enough. If you don't have it, I highly recommend you pick it up. I promise you will not be disappointed. And if you're not 100% satisfied, I'll give you your money back. So after that Power Station record in 1985, Tony played on the highly successful album by Robert Palmer called Riptide, which was also produced by Bernard Edwards. This one spawned the iconic MTV video for Addicted to Love, as well as I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. But it's the other cuts, the deep cuts of this record that really have some spectacular drumming on them. How the song Hyperactive didn't become a bigger hit, I don't even know if a lot of people heard it. It's beyond me. But it does feature Tony's golden dance groove. But the song Flesh Wound. Tony lets loose a little bit here, and he just kills with the syncopated dexterity and the hi-hat accents, and the interplay between the drums and the guitar on that song are badass. I dare you to listen to that song and not go, okay. Alright. Oh. What? Yes. Yes. I dare you. It's one that I love to try to play. It's so fun. But then came the opportunity of a lifetime for a drummer. One that every rock drummer dreams of. I would have even donated an organ or something. And still to this day, there's a little glimmer of possibility that somebody could fill that role again. But what I'm talking about is Tony being asked to fill the shoes of the legendary John Bonham. Yeah. Yes, that John Bonham. Is there another John Bonham?
No.
I don't think there's a Jason Bonham, who is well deserved of mentioning. But that John Bonham. It's one of the most coveted. It's the holy grail in the pantheon of rock and roll. I just used the word pantheon. That's like the spot for a drummer. So in 1985, there was a massive concert called Live Aid, which was for famine relief in Africa. It was televised to millions of people. It took place in London as well as in Philadelphia. It was a massive concert, and it featured iconic artists of the day and featured the legendary performance of Queen. Now, Tony played that event in Philadelphia with the Power Station, and then 2 hours later took the stage with the mighty Led Zeppelin. However, Led Zeppelin's set was bad.
Really bad.
Robert Plant even referred to it as an atrocity. Could have been better. It appeared to be unrehearsed also, and there's some different opinions on this, but there was a late addition of adding a second drummer. Now, this drummer just isn't any drummer. He's a legendary drummer in his own right, but probably more widely known for having massive hits as a singer, as well as drumming for and fronting a legendary progressive rock band. Now, what I've been able to gather is that Tony maybe got to rehearse for a few days with the band, or maybe just the day of the show. But the other drummer didn't. And it kind of looked like he just winged it, and it wasn't a good winging. Ging. I don't even know if that's a word. Yeah, I really don't think that's a word. After Live Aid, though, there was rumors that the band was actually rehearsing with Tony. Some reports say that they rehearsed for a little bit, but then that it just kind of fell apart. One version I heard was that Tony was actually in a car accident that kind of halted rehearsals, and then it just fell off from there. After Live Aid, Tony continued to tour and did some studio work. He worked with 9 Inch Nails, Rod Stewart, Mick Jagger, Paul Rodgers, and Jody Watley. Then again in 1996, Tony regrouped with Power Station and did a second album called Living in Fear. This is also a stellar record. Has some really good songs on it, and the drumming is typical Tony. Badass. Unfortunately, in November of 2003, Tony passed away from kidney cancer. He was only 48 years old. Tony's drumming is rightly deserved, being up there among the best that there ever was. He had style, finesse, power, and a signature sound. That's something that every drummer wishes that they could have, is their own specific sound. Much like a guitar player searches for their signature sound or that specific tone that defines who they are as a player. Tony had that, and a lot more. Well, there you go. I really encourage you to check out Tony's work. It really is deserving of your and all of our attention. Even if we've heard of him before, I still go back and listen to him all the time. Sincerely, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned something about Tony. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons on this. Leave a comment below if there's a drummer you think has been neglected and deserves a little bit of light shown in their way. Also, leave a comment below if there's a drummer you think has been neglected in the pantheon of rock and roll. I used it twice. And maybe deserves a little bit more recognition as well. Again, thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.